Hey, what is up? My name is Rubidium. Today we're looking at my C200 and all the kind of bits and strange things I have hanging off it to help me work and do the things that I do with it. So you're probably looking at this camera as I did, looking at cameras like this before I bought it and think, what the hell is going on? Like, why are there so many wires? Why is there so much weird stuff hanging off this camera? How can that possibly be useful? This is the camera. This is the C200. Everything else is sort of an appendage. Without knowing what it does, it can be really almost overwhelming to kind of get a handle on why someone would buy a small camera like this and then throw all this other crap on top of it. So I should start by saying that I apologize for the quality of this video. Almost every piece of camera gear that I own is currently rigged to the C200. So I have my 5D Mark III shooting magic lantern on a travel tripod and a tiny little off-brand monitor that I'm looking at this with. So we're gonna have to get through it. I think it probably helps to think less about the C200 in this form function as a camera and more about a camera system. And the camera is sort of the bottleneck through which the entire film production process is fed. So all the departments of film production, you have the camera, grip, lighting, art department, sound, everything else, it all feeds into this one image that the camera captures. And as a result, the camera becomes the nexus for the entire production. And so every little piece puts their thing into the camera and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So I'll kind of talk you through what I have rigged to this particular one, and we can, kind of go from there. So obviously this is the tripod. This is the tripod head. This is the base plate. The base plate carries these two 15mm rods that then help support all the other stuff that gets rigged to the camera. The first thing is the lens. Unlike a photographic lens that is autofocus, although this camera does have great autofocus, a lot of the time you don't want, the person that's holding the camera or operating the camera won't be the same person that's focusing the camera. That's a focus puller or a first AC. So that they're not, to make that their job easier and so that they're not pushing the camera and moving it as they're pulling focus, we have this device called follow focus that sits on the 15mm rails. And as you can see, as I turn this dial on the side, it turns a gear in the housing that then focuses the lens. Actually, more modern camera productions have a remote follow focus. So they have this as an individual unit with its own little motor, then that goes off-site that goes remotely to another device, and the first AC pulls focus without touching the camera at all. Then you need to see because the C200B doesn't have a monitor, I need to add this monitor, Blackmagic Video Assist at the top. Now then you need to get the video feed from the camera to the monitor, and you get here this silver SDI cable comes from the SDI out to the monitor itself. Then the monitor needs power. It does have two battery slots up here for LP6 Canon batteries. The problem with that is that on such a big monitor, on a 7-inch monitor, they run out pretty quickly. In fact, I wasn't buying Canon LP6s, I was buying the Blackmagic ones, but I only got about half an hour's power. So to shoot all day, to shoot a 10 or a 12-hour day, I'd either need someone swapping them in and out, or I'd need to bring 20 batteries to set, which is a huge drain. And power running out on the monitor could happen in the middle of a shot. It could happen at all bad times. So the monitor is being powered by this V-mount Indy Pro 95 watt-hour battery pack at the back. This comes off, it sits into battery mount that then, because now it's here, this also feeds power to the camera. So instead of having a 3 or 4 hour battery for the camera, I now have a 7 or 8 hour battery for the camera. And This is a wooden camera 15mm battery housing that feeds power directly into the C200. It also has 3 DTAP ports that are these other small little PTAP or DTAP, depending on what you want to call it. They can power the monitor and anything else that you put on here. So rather than changing out batteries on different things in the camera every 15, 20, 30 minutes, you only change out one battery every couple of hours and it powers everything. The other thing that the DTAPs are powering is this little remote unit on the back of the monitor, which accepts the HDMI out of the camera and then sends that signal to a receiver and allows people that aren't next to the camera to see what the camera is shooting. I never thought this was really important. I thought this was real indulgence. The real reason that I love having this is, as a director, there's nothing more frustrating than having to like stand on your tippy toes, leaning over the DP or the operator's shoulder, trying to get an idea of what it is they're shooting. The DP needs to see the monitor to operate it, but the director needs to see the monitor just as much to know what they're shooting and if it's working. And I really think that it's such a priority for the director to have their own monitor so they can see what's going on. Otherwise, how can you tell? How can you tell all the subtleties that are going on the performance? How can you be checking that the frame is the frame that you want? It's not enough, like I said, to be like leaning in over someone's shoulder or like stealing a look at someone else's monitor. You need to have your own monitor if you're directing a film. For years, I would carry around my little 7-inch Lilliput thing and like try and plug it in with HDMI to people's cameras. It's like, but that's not great either because the cable could potentially interfere with the movement of the camera. This is the best solution that I've found. The other thing that this camera's rigged for right now is sound. So we have the Sennheiser mounted to the base plate and the camera itself, or the top plate. And then I also have Harmonic dual channel audio receiver. So that's mounted to the gap between the camera body and the battery. And that lets the camera get whatever the sound mixer is putting out. Because the C200 has 4 tracks, it can get 2 tracks. It can get dual audio at different levels at, say, a 0 and a +5 from the environment, and then it can also take 2 channels from stereo channels from either a remote mic transceiver on the Talent, or it can get it from the mixing board. It just means that everything's in the right place. Then to carry all this around, I have a top handle attached to a top plate screwed into the top of the camera. And then to manipulate the monitor, I have this Manfrotto swivel adapter here. It's kind of like, ends up with something similar to the Red system. And these guys are on like a quick release sort of system that you slide back and forth to be able to get out without having to unscrew everything. I have my Rokinon 85mm EF Prime on the front, which has gears matching the follow focus. I like to leave the Canon battery that came with it in the camera itself, so that say this connection could fail or this battery would go down or run out of juice, that the camera will keep shooting, it won't cut. That's basically what I do. I have the C200 as the CFast access slot on the side of the camera. If I want to get access to the SD cards, I can slide this guy back and take the audio receiver off. You can get access to all the buttons through here. All in all, it's a really cool system. The camera then slides out here. You can hand hold it. I can do a kind of a low angle shoot, looking at manipulating the monitor. And this is it doesn't weigh much at all. I can carry it pretty easily. I can reposition if I go on a really high angle on the tripod. I have another mount for the monitor that I can slide these rails back and place the monitor here behind the battery. All in all, it's a setup that I really like, that's been working for me. like I said, in the future I might add remote follow focus if I need to do easy cam or gimbal work. I would have to recondition a lot of this stuff to do a shoulder rig, because with the monitor where it is, you can't really see it. It's not really handheld. One thing that the C200 really annoys me is that it won't output SDI and HDMI at the same time. It would be really great to have a second monitor for the focus puller coming off the side of the camera on like a friction arm. But to do that, I would need to like daisy chain the HDMI signal through the monitor and then the transceiver. It'd be much easier to just come off the HDMI. But for whatever reason, the chip can't handle it, or Canon disabled it, and you can't get HDMI and SDI at the same time. That's my C200 setup. Love to know what you guys think. Love to know if anyone has any. Right now with the camera, the 7-inch monitor and the transceiver all running off the Indie Pro V mount, I get definitely a good half a day's shooting, so I tend to swap the batteries out at lunchtime. That's never really been a problem. These are the cheap Indie Pro. You can get ones with like LCD readouts that tell you exactly how much power you have and how much power is being drawn. This one just has a button on the side with like 4 little LEDs. Interesting things about this, I don't know, or I can't power the audio receiver off external batteries, only 2 AAAs, and that really eats up power, so that's something that it'd be great to get a different unit that can be externally powered. I'm using both the, I'm using the external, the battery feed and both of the D-taps out of this wooden camera plate, though the Indie Pro battery itself has a P-tap in the top. So there's one more piece of power that I could get off that. And all in all, it's a really cool rig. I love it. Works great. It's a little bit time consuming to build. I can if I take everything apart, pack it, I can usually build it up in about 20 minutes. Sometimes I just take the monitor off and transport it like it is here in a sort of like a duffel bag, sort of camera bag situation. And I haven't had any problems with it. So there it is. That hopefully that gives people some insight into what all this crap is that people have hanging off their cameras, what it does, why you would want it. But yeah, this is by no means the be-all and the end-all of camera rigs. I would say most professional camera rigs also have a remote follow focus, also have a second monitor focus puller if it's been handheld, and they have a more elaborate base plate that probably can do both shoulder mount and tripod mount. So somewhere in the future I might put that together. But that's my rig as it is today. Hope you guys got something out of that. See you next time.